Yo, it's Guido coming at you with the Tactics Talk. Welcome back, guys. Thanks for tuning in to this episode. And we have a review of the new line, the new Swedish line, or at least the Tier 8, the Udes 14 Alt 5. You can see it here in the garage. Interesting looking tank. It's a Tier 8 tech tree tank on the Swedish line, and it is splitting off of the Leo, where it used to just switch to the Emil. Now we have the Udes 14 Alt 5. We're going to talk about this standard. We're going to do an overview, look at the tech tree considerations, the 3D model, do a comparison amongst its peers, look at my stats in this tank. Interestingly, it did not take long. We'll talk about that while I get there, or when I get there. My setup, and I've got 3 examples of gameplay for the new Swedish Udes 14 Alt 5. 14 Alt 5, let's get started. All right, for the overview, it's an interesting looking tank, fairly low slung. The turret is not quite in rear mounted, but it isn't front mounted, let's put it that way. Middle back, something like that. This was a project tank developed by Bofors. The project was to feature a gun autoloader and hydraulic suspension. It does have the hydraulic suspension, kind of, in the game, but it's not like you would know the Swedish TDs where you have to press X. It just happens. So it's a bit more seamless than the TDs. We'll talk about it as we go. It was going to have a autoloader and manual gun loading. We will get to this when we get into the tech tree considerations, but something I didn't really realize with the Swedes is the crews, especially the 3-person crews, are a bit of a mess. We'll get there in just a minute, but here it is in the garage. Not much armor. We'll talk about that as well. Nicely sloped, so when you get that hold down thing, the auto bounce angles can be created, but it's very thin armor, so overmatch is an issue in there. Fairly low and small silhouette of a turret, silhouette of a man right there. So when it is doing the ridge poking thing, which it kind of excels at, then you can minimize your exposure even if the turret is very weak and able to be pinned right there. But interesting design, not too different than the Lansen, at least as far as silhouette goes. So you look at that. And that was the Tier 8 Premium that came out before it, that preceded it right there. You'll notice that the Lansen is a 4-person crew. So that's one of your premium choices for the Swedes to train crews. So you're going to have one of your guys get left behind. And again, we're going to get into the crew thing in just a minute. But the low silhouette is helpful, especially on ridge poking. You can see other tanks are massive. And that's a great example right there. The Centurion Mark 5/1 is just gigantic compared to this thing. Prototype, the T-54 first prototype, is a comparable size. You look at the Panther 2, gigantic, that kind of thing. We come over here to the FV, pretty big compared to it, and then things like the VTU concepts are just massive. So that is going to help it in this game. Anytime you are smaller, that makes you harder to hit, and that is always a good thing because you're going to force errors on people trying to hit, especially when you're moving a smaller target. All right, let's move on to the tech tree. Okay, let's try to unpack a little bit. I'm just going to give you some warnings on the crew. I'm not going to unpack the whole thing because I started to dig into it and it gets really wonky. At the Leo, you've got 4 crew members: commander, gunner, driver, loader. At the Udes, you get a commander, gunner, driver, which is going to be the 3 crew configuration that most of their top tiers have. As a matter of fact, let's just take a quick look at the ML2 and also with 3 crew. As I started to dig through this, I found out that in some cases, the commander's the gunner. In some cases, somebody else is the gunner. I can't remember who. Probably the driver, I guess. Well, yeah, the gunner's the gunner. Sorry, if you've got a gunner in there. I found out that on the TDs, there's actually 2 guys that are a gunner in some cases, and on the medium tank, there's actually 2 guys that are loaders. Which you look at that and go, well, that doesn't show any loaders. Well, you've got to look at the skills that particular guy can have. And when you've got a 3-crew tank, what ends up happening is it's got a commander, gunner, driver, but the radio perks and the loader perks have to go somewhere. So they throw them on different guys. And it doesn't seem to be very standardized. So be very careful about that. The problem with that is, the reason I mention it is, if you're bringing guys out of the heavies or guys out of the TDs to retrain, you got to watch which qualifications they have and whether that slot actually has that skill, the ability to get to those skills, because then there'll be shade it out and you won't be able to use it. Now you're going to spend gold to completely retrain it. So like I said, I'm not going to unpack everything because it's kind of nutty. Just watch out for that issue right there. All right. So getting into this, we can see that you've got tracks, a engine, radio, no turret. So there's no other turret to upgrade. And then 3 choices in guns. The one it comes with, and then the 8 and the, well, the 8 and the 8. I've got the 8. The 10.5 centimeter Sturvcon on there as well. The nice thing about that gun is it's 360 alpha, and that's kind of one of the big features of this tank. We'll talk about that as we get into it. If you take a look at the setup tool that's in the comparison over here, you'll note a couple things that you need to know about setting up your Udes, especially if you're going to play it from stock. So if we go in here, you will note that if we go ahead and put everything down to stock, if I put an engine on, I'm okay with that without the tracks. I'm okay with the radio, but I cannot, as you see, it hashes out. I cannot put either one of the guns on. Even if I go, hey, I'm just going to start with the guns, guess what? You've got to go tracks first, no matter what you do on this tank, unless you want to put the, whatever the thing is. What is this thing over here? The torsion bars. If you put the torsion bars on it, then you can go ahead and fully upgrade it, but you're using one of your equipment slots. And that is pretty much it for, back out of here, for the tech tree considerations on the, what is this thing? It's always hard with these. It's like, its name's not Tiger or Chipmunk or anything. It's the big long Udes 14 Alt 5. Let's look at the 3D model. Typically I'll use tanks.gg for this, but it looks like it's not built in there yet. So we'll just go ahead with the visual model right here in game, and we'll take a look at the thicknesses. The hole's at 35 front, 35 sides, 10 rear. Turret's at 66, which is approaching sort of usefulness against some lower tier things, plus angles, maybe, and 30 on the side and 20 on the back. As I noted, it's got some very nice angles, but you've got to somehow build those angles into an auto bounce angle before that armor really gets good, right? Or you're dealing with tier 6 with bad pin, maybe. My armor use efficiency, we'll look at that when we get to the stats, is really low on this tank. So you're relying on the lucky bounce, not relying. All you're going to get is the lucky bounce, the weird angle kind of thing, the shots eating tracks kind of thing. Really, at the end of the day, the armor's not going to do a whole bunch for you. I've dueled with a couple of these things with mine and just punched straight through the turret nearly every time. It just really didn't seem to matter where you hit this thing, unfortunately. So one of its playstyle characteristics is supposedly this hold down using hydraulics, but the turret really doesn't support that too much, other than being small and hard to hit if you're careful about how much you expose. So that's about the best that can be said for the armor, and artillery loves it. You're going to get hammered by artillery. It's so thin. Something splashing behind you or to the side is going to have a good chance, not splashing, but hitting you is going to have a very good chance of pinning, and then the splash is going to hurt you pretty good too in this thing. So not a whole lot to say, and it's really not even worth mentioning weak spots, to be quite honest, on this thing. It just, the whole thing is it's a weak spot. All right, let's move on. Well, all right, let's go to the tail of the tape. We're here in the comparison tool. Remember, when I do these, I strip all the equipment, all the perks and skills off the crew members, and any bits and bangles that are going to give them any bonuses. So all you're seeing is a 100% or a, let's call it a fully upgraded tank for the tech tree tanks with just a crew at 100% in their primary skill. And that is it. No paint, none of that. I've got the Udes with some of its peers. These are all tech tree tanks. So we're going to look at those. A couple of these are pretty good ridge fighters, popping up and over like the Centurion and the Pershing. Some of them are Russian. That speaks for itself. just kidding. Some of them are terrible, like the T-34 too. In any event, I've also got the Lance NC there, which is the premium, the recent Swedish premium, just as a comparison to how the premium compares to the tier 8 in the same Swedish garage. So, well, it's got that average damage per shot, right? The Alpha is the biggest in class at 360. You're going to pay for that with a long reload. But that is a big stick, and it does help this tank quite a bit. It gives it some options sometimes that you may not have with a little 240 pew-pew gun. We'll talk about that as we go and when we get into the gameplay. The penetration is pretty nice at 217. It's not up there with the Centurion at 226 or the Panther, But 217 is very usable as a standard penetration round. Look at the poor 34-2 at 181. And it's stablemate the Lancet at 208, which is pretty similar. The rate of fire is pretty miserable, down at 5.33. The reload time at 11.26, which is not great right there. You take a while to reload, and once you put equipment and have a decent crew on there, it's somewhere around 9 seconds or so. And that can throw you off as a medium tank player if you kind of have that internal timing of every, say, 5 to 6, maybe 7 seconds getting a shot off. This one's going to be a couple late. I did find myself early until I got used to the reload and started thinking about it, kind of starting to move and pop out earlier and then waiting 2 seconds while exposed, trying to get a shot. Excuse me. And so gun depression at -12, positive 26. That is a really good depression. That is assisted a bit by the hydraulics, which we'll look at and talk about as we go. Aim time's at 2.01, which is tied for best in class, and that really makes that .36 dispersion a little bit more comfortable. On the Lancet C, it's 2.4 and .36. The Lancet C has a really large bloom, and it can feel like it takes forever to load in for an accurate shot. This one seems to aim in quite a bit faster, although the dispersion is still pretty high at .36. And it's really interesting here that when you finally put all that together, it gets 1,919 average damage per minute. And of course, the only premium on the list is top of the DPM. We'll just let that sleeping dog lie for right now. The Pershing, the Panther, the 34-2 are all miserable at 18. So 19's okay. It's not really competing for top in class at all, but it's decent. And it's actually really decent compared, or when you consider that it's got that 360 alpha hammer blow for a tier 8 premium, or for a tier 8 medium, not premium. The trick, of course, is relatively low penetration, not a whole lot of staying power. So getting that gun somewhere where that good hammer blow can make a big difference can be tricky with the Udes 14.5 when you put the sum of the parts together, and we'll talk about that as we go. Survivability is 1400, which is decent hit points. There's the armor we talked about. It's basically nothing. You are not relying on that armor. You're relying on a low silhouette. You're relying on good gameplay and minimizing exposure to not take damage, and the occasional lucky bounce. That's about all you're going to get. The speed is okay at 55, pretty nice, near the top for everybody, not quite as fast as a Pantera, so it does feel decently zippy. It will get you around. The reverse speed's 20, which is pretty good and interesting. Nearly every one of these tanks, minus the Russian one, which is faster, of course, is at 20. Concealment, hey, look at this. It leads in concealment. Low silhouette, relatively small tank. I think mostly the low silhouette is what's to blame. I was going to say to blame, or to cause the really good camo. Even a 13 while moving, which is pretty darn good, actually. So if you can camo snipe and stay in the back and stay unspotted, you can do some pretty good work with this thing. But that is a tactic, not a type of tank. There are times when that's useful for it, and we'll talk about some of that when we get into the gameplay. And I think you'll all be happy to know that it's got the best radio in class right here. So a fantastic 850 meters. You're just really going to start calling people or whatever the radio is good for. The view range is at 390, which is nice, near the top. All right, so what is the deal with this tank? It's interesting because it's got that big 360 alpha gun on a tier 8 medium, which is fairly unusual. A fairly pretty long reload time, which makes the timing piece of it a little bit tricky. Getting in a brawl with one of the tanks that has the 240 but a much faster reload, they may be pumping out a little bit more damage on you in time. Over time, you're going to be close with your 1900 or so damage per minute, but sometimes on those low hit point scraps, a couple faster shots are going to do a lot better than that one big shot taking somebody down. That whole timing where you're only going to get one and they're going to get two because they reload faster, you're both on low hit points, they may actually take you out faster than you'll be able to take them out. So you do have to be careful about that kind of scrum with this thing. However, on the other hand, it is interesting because of the 360 alpha on this, you can take down tanks that may not think they're killable by you. I.e., here's a tier 8 medium. I can probably take a couple hits from this guy. Well, Maybe not. Maybe not with that 360 and a high roll. You can be dropping some 400 alpha blaps on some people and surprise them where they think, hey, I got it. I can run in here, take one shot, take him down, and you can actually take him down in the first shot. Let's look at my setup. Nope, we're not doing that. We're going to do my stats. So this was really interesting to me. I'm going to go ahead and roll this up past my little thingamajigger there, so to speak. Here it is, and I I played 25 battles, and you might be going, huh? 56%, 1,062 experience. Now, why did I only take 25 battles? Now, I did free XP all of the modules, but I still needed about 150,000 experience. If you do the math there, that's a lot of experience per battle. Well, it's the new system, right? The new manageable XP. There was also a really good XP, a couple, at least one, but if not two, really good XP mission things going on here on this weekend when I ground through this thing, and it just did not take very long. I mean, that's pretty amazing. 25 battles at tier 8 for over 150,000 experience. Anyway, how did I do? Well, 78% hit rate is slightly higher than my average. That's a good deal. The damage ratio and the destruction ratio is well up there. Anything over 2 is really nice. There's the armor use efficiency. Anything below 0.5 is basically no armor. Once you approach 0.5 towards the middle of that, pretty good. And once you get a 1.0, you've got a tank with armor. As you can see, 0.11, you're just not going to rely on the armor. The experience, I was pretty happy with that. Anything at 1,000 or close to 1,000 or over is good. Damage caused is well up there for me in mediums at tier 8. Pretty good. That's more like my heavy damage per game. Low sample size, folks. Let's not get too crazy. It's 25 battles. Those could really go all to heck if I played 100. But for right now, it's holding its own. Damage received is actually relatively low. Pretty good. Battle survived, and that's because my battle survived is at 48, which is very good. Very good indeed. Damage with assistance, 490 is okay. Spotted and destroyed, not too bad. And I managed a 4,600 damage game with 4 kills. That actually is in my list of battles I will show you. It was a draw ace tanker, so it's kind of interesting. There's some other things to learn on that one too, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So for example, the Progetto 46 is a relatively new tank that's come out. And how did I do? I got 60% on that, and I was averaging 1,605. The Lance and C, I'm averaging 1,792 damage. So you can see I'm really averaging quite a bit more in this tank. Let's find somebody else. We're going the wrong way. Let's say the T30 4-3, which is a premium. I'm at 1,800. We go up here to the ST1. I'm at 1,606. And so basically, as you can see, my average damage per game right now anyway is very high. The 40T I do pretty well in. That's starting to approach my average damage. I believe that will come down. I don't think I'm going to hold. I doubt I would hold 2254 over 100 battles, but I may very well be around 2,000, which speaks well for this tank. It is a tank, we'll get to it, but it is a tank that a good to great player can really leverage a lot of its capabilities. But it's got some pretty big weaknesses to counter those, and if you're not careful, you can get wrecked quickly. That's basically how I did. Let's look at my stat up. Let's look at my setup. For my crew, I've already moved them on to the tier 9. It was a pretty good crew. I want to say about 3 skills. So it was not a basic crew. I did have 6th Sense and Brothers in Arms. So I had that going on. I brought them from another tank, retrained them. But they've already moved on to greener pastures. I am running a rammer. I'm running a vertical stabilizer, and I'm running improved vents. I don't think there's a better setup for this tank than that. Somebody might get rid of the vert stab or the vents to go with optics. That's an option potentially. I just don't find the vision game to be that important with mediums. I know I'm probably going to get beat around the head and shoulders by most players. And there's probably some really great players who would completely disagree with me, but I would say in general you're getting more as an average player out of this setup than you are out of the optics setup. But I'm happy to take those spears if people disagree with me right there. I was fully upgraded. I never played this thing anything less than fully upgraded. 32 APCR, APCR. The gold round is also an APCR and 0 HE. I just didn't feel the need to carry any HE. 217 on the average pen with a gold 253, which is good, not great, and can handle most heavies until you get to the kind of tier 10 heavy TD armor. Then you're going to have some problems. You're probably going to need to pick out weak spots or get around those guys in that case. Large kits and a large fire extinguisher completes my setup there. I did not actually run in those 25 battles any directives on this tank because I had a good crew. Could have done so. You know, the vent purge and the things that help the crew, that's always a good idea. Throwing on the Sixth Sense one if you're running a new crew to train them, also always a good idea right there. But that's basically my setup. And now for 3 examples of gameplay. The Udes 14 Alt 5. All right, the first example is on proc, and we are top tier. So any tank top tier is going to be set up to have a pretty good day. And I'm going to head over this way, and I'm headed up the hill. This is the encounter mode. I'll just shoot at the Bulldog. Wasn't quite ready earlier. It was kind of a crummy shot. Didn't get anything out of it. Now, I knew, this is fairly early in playing this, and I knew this thing had those hydraulics and was pretty good at kind of poking ridges. I thought I might go up here and see what I could do. Either hang out in this bush back here or push forward, and we're getting a lot of help. All kinds of dudes headed up here. Notice that I spawned in on the west side, and I've already swung all the way across, so that speed is definitely useful. I was cooking along there pretty good. We're going to come up over in here. I'm going to use this bush for my approach. And then I want to get up there, and I'm hoping I'm fast enough. I notice the Bulldog is down below, so at least he won't be up here spotting me already. I feel like I'm fast enough. I'm just going to keep trucking, and I want to poke on this ridge up here and see if I can catch some of their guys crossing and maybe stuff them. Now we got a whole bunch of dudes stacked up on the 1-2 line. So we're going to come here and we're going to kind of check out this hydraulic system. There we go. Dude's coming up. And I probably overexposed myself. I didn't really need to come up that high. I knew I was going to get spotted. Somebody shot at me. And there is an artillery, so if he notices me, I may have an issue right there. I'm going to just kind of rock around. I don't want to come up into that bush. There's an artillery round going in there. I don't want to come up into this bush while I'm still lit, so I'll just come up this way and see what we can do. There we go. That guy's kind of looking. And now I'll just back up a little bit. I'm just looking for a decent shot at one of these dudes. Oh, here comes the TR. All right, see how that hydraulic, that the gun kind of waved around a little bit? When you stop and get slow enough, then the hydraulic system kicks in and you get a little bit of extra boost on your depression. So that's where some of the depression comes from on this thing. There's the artillery blapping in on me. And I have kind of enticed my team to move forward, but I see that they're pushing up. I'm going to drop back here and see if we can't get rid of this TER. Jump into a bush. Back, 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 back. And really, I wish I'd have stayed there, but they're getting a lot of attention. We'll just drop a shot at him and miss him. And now I see that TR is at 10 hit points, and I'm thinking, well, all right, we probably need to go get this dude. I'm going to look at the IS-3 for potato. The T-34B and the ISM have declined to come up here. Up to the edge, they're all on the back edge right there. There goes the artillery round, but didn't end up killing the TER. And at this point, I'm thinking, all right, we really need to get rid of this TER. The 1-2 line is pushing. We don't have a lead in tanks or somebody clicking over there. Oh, look, that's me. So we're going to come up here and try to find this TR. And he's making a runner, so that's good. Just kind of come up here. There's that little, oh, and I get hammered. And I'm like, how did that happen? So did you see the light went off right after I got hit? Potentially I was spotted come up there, but I'd be really surprised. Maybe I stuck my nose through. Oh, well, I don't know. Did I knock the tree down? In any event, that one kind of surprised me. I haven't really delved into that. I'm not sure why he saw me. We'll snap one off. A little snapshot onto the 40T. I'll be honest, that didn't look like it was even really aimed at him, but it hit him. Sometimes, see the shot. Sometimes RNG just says yes. There's a 343 shot into that guy. Bit of a low roll. I got a 312 on the Lorraine. Those are not good. But you can see that it works this ridge pretty well. Now, if I was a little more careful, I may have been able to do more things like this, where I'm shooting well behind the bush. Maybe up top here, it could back up enough, but the ridge drops off, so sometimes it's really hard to get those shots. I'm kind of overexposing, though, into these bushes. We'll drop one into there. There's a 410. That's a high roll. That's nice. And I didn't get spotted because they're far enough back. So now it's fights on. I've got all kinds of capability here to shoot. I'm going to try to pin the front of a TS5, and that's going to go poorly with 217. Unless I luck out and hit the cupola. Move around in the bushes a little bit here. See if we can't start finding these guys. And the route is kind of on. We really have map control. And unless some of their hidden tanks start gunning down our push on the 1-2, and it doesn't look like they are, they're in big trouble right here. Because we own the middle. We own the west, and we're up on the hill on the east. So they're really just stuffed into corners, and that's going to be very difficult for them to come back from. So now we're just in farming mode. I'm looking for guys to shoot. That's just really not going to go through unless he gives me a better shot. So I decline that shot. Unusual for me, but there you go. And I feel like maybe he's just going to drive up. So we're just watching this dude do his thing. Here's where I'm trying to get back and get behind the trees. And I just can't quite do it. But you can see, holy cow, I was really down there, just barely poking up the turret. And then that hydraulic kind of kicked in and got that little bit of extra depression. And very comfortable gun, right? Nice long-range shot. Bad dispersion relatively, but it zoomed in so fast. It was that was just a comfortable shot right there, even at that range. And these guys are just getting hammered. I'm getting some pretty good spotting. I try to come down here and aim carefully and try to kill this dude, but no. So I'm going to get spotted every time now with those guys, but they're so busy shooting dudes in the corner that I am relatively safe up here. More than likely, their artillery's dead. I'm not going to take too much aggro, especially while they're trying to shoot 3 or 4 guys popping over the hill, and this poor TS5 is trying to aim in every direction. I go back and forth a little bit. Unfortunately, the 43. I should have killed him, but hey, look at that teamwork. My buddy took him down. Down goes the IS-3, and we're at 3,200 with 1,586 spotting. And now it's just charging in to try to get a little bit more damage. I do a little head fake there just in case they were timing me coming up over the hill. I suppose the Scorpion's probably up in the corner somewhere around A0 or something like that. Although I never really took any shots from him, so I'm not sure what he was doing. Maybe just doing his bot thing up there. It's hard to tell. We find the Udes. There's the Scorp. I'm just going to come down here and make sure he goes away. I'm a little bit issue with the... There we go, with the depression on the tank. But again, good mobility. I was able to get in there, and that dude dies before I can get a shot. And we're at 3,507, 1,586 with 2 kills and a win. And a pretty good example of some of the ridge fighting capability of this tank and the mobility. Being able to get to control positions like that. Being able to get out of them if they need to. I didn't particularly need to. I did the one fade back and fade forward, but no big deal right there. Probably could have stayed forward on that one. And we end up with the win. Let's move on to the second example. Now, granted, top tier. For the second example, we are here with an all tier 8, same tier battle. Switch over here to the tanks. On El Haluf, is that what this is called? No, this is Sand River. See, I can't even... 78,000 battles, and I can't remember what the maps are called. Those are just brain bites I have not used for that. All right, we're going to come down here, and I want to see what the hold down capability of this thing is. I'm kind of curious, is it any good, right? Just because it's a small turret, can I actually minimize my exposure enough to do some good work? See how the hydraulics are kind of working it right there? I'm going to back up. I'm going to see if I can get a shot, and all of a sudden, the Hawk 12 sees me and I get hammered for half my hit points because I'm futzing around up there on the side, not really paying attention to where their spotter may come up to. So I bail out of that, and all of a sudden now I'm on my back foot. I've given up half my hit points for no gain. Finally having some support coming up here. KV5 pushes in, and we'll head this way. The good news is I do not have any, and I actually hit that dude, which is amazing. Track him. You miss every shot you don't take, right? So we'll push in here. We're going to try to get rid of this dude. They don't have any artillery, which is nice. That's not true. They have 1, sorry. So now I'm going to come up here and I'm going to start using this hold down capability. And this is a spot that's really difficult for a lot of tanks to use. But this one doesn't seem to have much problem. It's just a target-rich environment. Here's the timing. See how I was moving up already? I'm trying to work the timing to get a shot. I was already headed up the hill, but I wasn't quite reloaded yet. Maybe just a little bit early. The KV5 bails out of it. He's like, I don't want anything to do with this firing line down here, and I'll just kind of keep moving around. And I'll take the guy that I first light. Actually, that's not true. I'll go after that guy. And he shoots back and gets me with a 322. That's not true. Did I bounce that? I don't know. I don't know. I can't even read this screen. I have no idea what I'm talking about right now. Just dueling. All I'm doing, I'm just dueling this guy. And I'm punished. And the 324... Let's see, what do I got here? I got a 324, a 322, and a 354. Doggone it. Terrible. But a good example really in there of the hold down capability You can really just kind of poke up over there, even though your turret's not great, minimize the exposure on your tank, and because the aim time is decent, it's actually not bad at doing that kind of sniping snapshot stuff. Now here's where it gets a little trickier, because I'm really going to expose myself up on this flat table to get a shot on these guys. I'm like, okay, where's it now? There we go. Oh, there's that hydraulic thing kicking in, so it can be a little wonky at times. And that time, I take a hit from the Udes 03, and he low rolls, or he's got maybe the stock gun on it at 193. I'm not really sure what's going on with that 198 damage there. So we work over this push. They get out into that flat. We're able to stuff them. I've got the KV-5 in the low, knocking them down from behind over there, and they run off, and that's fine. They want to run off and camp their cap. There's no reason to push into them now that they have fallen back into a defensive kind of position. So we'll flex over to this way, and there's the mobility, right? It's a medium. It's got decent mobility. We'll come over this way, and for a long time there, I was sniping. I was kind of popping the turret up and over, doing the peek-a-boom thing on the dunes right there, and now I'm going to flex over to more of a medium. Hey, let's get in there and start getting to the side and to the rear of the heavies and do some damage. I do have a push going on. Just stop the action for a second. I do have a push going on over here, so these guys are going to be kind of busy worried about them. If there was nobody over here, it'd be dangerous to get onto this open spot because there's just so much up here. In fact, I probably had a shot on the... Do I have a shot on that guy? No, he's down on the other side. But it would be a bit dangerous for all those TDs, but looking at the mini-map, you go, oh, they're all busy. Count noses. Most of them are accounted for, if not all of them. Probably not going to take any shots. I should be safe coming around here and getting some free damage. Some free Shavaka-do back here. All right. Poor defender's bumming. I'm going to get rid of him. Either me or somebody, I'm not sure. I think I do. There we go. KV-5, he's like, oh, we were just winning down here. What on earth? And down he goes, and now we can flex back. It's clean up on aisle 2 time. I do want to be careful. I don't want to go just driving into him. I've only got 553 hit points. Reference the half my hit points I lost earlier, right? So every time you lose hit points, you limit your options later in the game. And I have clearly limited mine big time. I want to push in. I need to be aggressive to get the hit points, but I can't be too aggressive. There's still some heavy hitting TDs back there, and I could get gunned down very quickly. So I'm going to come up to this spot. I obviously know this is here, as most people do, and I can kind of come up here. And notice how as you come up, I don't have the depression. When I slow down enough, the hydraulics kick in, and down comes my gun just that little bit more. It can be a little bit tricky to use, so just realize it's there. The nice thing is you don't have to press X. There's no X required. Here's where I'm just really trying to get that maximum 12 degrees. Just minimize my exposure. See how that happens? I come up there with my gun kind of up in the air with my natural depression, and then when the hydraulics kick in, it kicks down. How many times can I mention that? Should I keep mentioning it? So anyway, about the hydraulics, but all right, we're pushing in. There's only 4 of these guys. We're at 1929, 1,517. Late game, this will be good. We're going to get a nice shot right on that. No, we're going to miss him. SU-101. Not really sure if he knows I'm there. He's got to know I'm there. He's sort of looking at me. I'm thinking he's pointing right at me, and then he's futzing around, and all of a sudden, oh, maybe he doesn't know I'm here because he's sort of looking the wrong way. So we're just going to go around this dude. Drop 381 on him. There we go. High roll. Fantastic. We'll ignore him. We'll come down this way. I'm thinking I'm going to get shot in the back. I may just die, but maybe I'll be able to do that and then run away. That works. Oh, we got him. We got him, but what does that mean? That means that he's on a reload, and we'll just do that. Unfortunately, he was a little bit hulled down, as in the hole. His hull was pointing downwards, or his tank was pointing downwards. That flattened out that upper plate, which is really quite good, and I had a better chance of penning into that thing. Managed to do all that without any gold. 2,383 damage, 1,825 assist with 3 kills. But I think a really good example of looking at how the hydraulics work and using it more as a kind of poke out ridge sniper, snapshotter kind of guy, combo thing. Nice thing about me being up there and doing that is I'm getting the lights and I'm getting a little bit of assist from the guys who are camping out behind me there. All right, let's work out over to the third example. All right, the third example is bottom tier. We're here with some tier 10s. My little tier 8, Udes, 14 alt 5. And I'm going to go try to work this bush. Gets a little goofy in here. I don't do a very good job of working this bush as we come in here, so to speak. Find that guy and I try to get a little snapperoonie. I miss him. Backing. I didn't get spotted, which is nice, but unfortunately, I did right there. So instead of backing around the rock, and now I'm spotted, now I'm going to have a hard time getting up into that rock. But as the bonehead I am, I insist on doing so. So I think, oh, I'll just do this without being spotted. Nope, E75 will see me. That guy sees me. I'm lucky he didn't hit me. And now I'm kind of, oh, geez, this is not good. I'm going to try to duel him. We get a little shot, another low roll at 325, and now I'm thinking, man, this is not good. What if I get shot in the back by one of their TDs? And really, I'm just lucky there wasn't one up on that ridge right there, or they were busy doing something else because I really should have been hit. And hey, look at that, lucked out. JPZ saw me, and then finally, a brain cell fires, the one I had left, and I leave that spot. Pretty lucky, to be quite honest, that I didn't eat at least 2 shots in there, if not an artillery or 2. So we'll flex back this way, and we're going to try to use some of that hold down capability. I was going to run over to the other side of the map, but I thought, look, these guys need some help over here. We actually have a pretty good force here, so we should do all right. We should be able to beat these guys, no problem. JPZ's there. Our JPZ is a bit of a muppet. He's just kind of just sitting there, not really being active participant in the battle. But they do have a good stack here. Unfortunately, we're losing over on the other side, which I can't quite figure out what the heck is going on over there. Nothing good. You see our Udes 16 is flexing back over to that side. We're down 0-2, and I'm trying to come up with a way to do something here. We get the that dude there, drop one on him, get a high roll. That's all right. 382. Now the problem is, because this thing doesn't have any armor, and the turret, I can't rely on the turret bouncing anything. I don't want to go up there and do the hold down. Maybe like a Centurion or one of these tanks that has decent turret armor. I really can't go up there and start dueling these guys, because they'll just pick at my turret and go right through it, especially that dropping a grand on me from the JPZ E100. I was also hoping that the guys over on the other side would do a little better than they are, but they're starting to struggle. Their hit points are down. There's a nice hit into the JPZ, that's helpful. And I just could not figure out a way to get in there without getting absolutely wrecked. So we're going to flex back this way. Kind of curious if anything's going to show up in the middle. I considered a middle push, but not all their tanks are spotted, and there are a considerable amount of TDs involved here. Messing around. This is a pretty, what's the word I'm looking for, inconsistent start right here. Fight's still going on over by the cap. They're keeping them from capping. That's a good thing. I'll come around to this bush, see if we can take a look. Nothing doing there. And their scout's dead, so they have a couple mediums with decent view range. They seem to be accounted for. The T-54, the E-50 are over on that side. T-28 goes down in a heap. And now I'm going to come back here, and I've got to try to stop the bleeding. And unfortunately, I wish I'd have been a little closer to this fight. I kind of let this thing go on without me for a bit, and that was a bad idea. They kind of wrecked our dudes. The T-28 walked into them. We got a couple of them as well. But if my gun had actually been actively seeking to fight over here, we might have done a lot better. And we take that guy down. So finally we get rid of that Tortois. There is a WT, and then we've got the JPZ, and I'm thinking, all right, between our JPZ and us, we should be able to just gang tackle this guy, no problem. He sort of senses the jig is up over here. I put another shot into him, and I get a whole 330 roll. Fantastic. But there's the WT, and now we've got a T-28 prototype, and I actually have trouble with this guy later. This guy basically kicks my rear. Makes some pretty bad mistakes. Now with the T-28, the WT, if a relatively inactive JPZ, that's just not really the place to be right there. Hoping I can cross here without getting hit, which I manage. And we have a problem over on the cap. So I look over on the other side, and I'm thinking, all right, dudes, I can't work with guys that are just going to kind of sit there like that JPZ is. So I'm going to bail out. I'm going to go see if I can help clean up the cap. They seem active, plus the enemy's on the cap. So that's actually useful. If they're going to try to pile on the cap, at least we know where they are. And they're, at this point, attempting to cap. So that gives us opportunities to come in here and start taking shots on these guys. 430 is doing some decent work. I'm going to cross over here. Unfortunately, the Udes comes up and sees me, and I just missed that guy. That would have been very good to get that shot in on him. And now my guys are hurt. And there's 2 artillery. So I'm sort of committed over here, and I'm thinking, oh man, how are we going to sort this one out? But the first thing that happens is the 105 goes down. That's helpful. And I'm wondering if there's anybody up on the top there, but I'm counting noses on where everybody is, and there isn't going to be anybody over on that sniper hill. So I'm just going to come over here and use this Great Depression from this tank. Get rid of that dude. And I'm trying to just not get hit by the Udes. For some reason, he's not looking at me. That's very helpful. So we'll come down this way. We'll auto-aim that dude. Put him down. And now the 14-5. And the good news is, over on the west side, is they have managed to hold them back. And now the Udes is making a runner. Let's use this Great Depression. We'll just come up nice and slow. Put a shot into him, and down he goes. And things are actually looking really good right here. So I'm thinking, all right, this is sorted. We're good. So we'll head over this way. Maybe the 50 TP can kill somebody. And then my 2 buddies back here, surely they'll cap or something. I don't know. But they head off. I'm going to do a video later on this one as a separate video. Usually don't show games twice, but we're going to talk about the timing on the cap here, because this does not go well for us. But we'll just talk about the tank itself as I flex over this way, looking for these bushes. And I want to try to punish these guys as they come, slow them down, and get the cap going. But as you can see, there's only 1 guy on cap right now. And one of our dudes is headed over trying to get into their artillery. So I get a shot on the JPZ. It doesn't light me. That's very good. Now here comes the WT. Wait for the reload. There we go. And I'll just come out and I'll take those hit points right there. Back up behind the rock. That's clearly going to get me spotted. And now I'm just going to get out of here. There are 2 artillery, so I really don't want to go to that well anymore right there. It's probably not going to go nicely for me. And I'm thinking, ooh, let's kill this dude. If we can kill this guy right here, this will be a really good thing. And I just kept driving a little too long, and I missed him. And I am going to pay dearly for that mistake. Shot comes in or something like that, looks like. So we'll dive down, and I make another mistake here. I put myself in a corner, which doesn't have any options. So I'm thinking I'm going to come over here and maybe get a free shot on one of them pushing in, which I do, but I also minimize my ability to get out of here. So now I'm isolated, and that's the problem with this move right here. I've isolated myself. I am going to get this shot, but I'm really going to be in big trouble here. Get a shot on him. I dive down, down, down. Thank goodness his turret's slow. Takes me a while to get back into cover, and now he's moving. And because I've isolated myself in the corner, I can't cross right here without being hit. So I choose to go back this way, and I'm thinking right now, man, I have turned a decent situation into bad. We're at 216. They have 2 artillery. I have at least 2 guys coming at me, probably 3, and one of them's a W or a JPZ, and I'm just in big trouble. The Udes gets one of them. There we go. There's that guy crossing. We'll put a shot on him. And he just keeps trucking in there. And it's actually not looking bad right now, right? The Udes has got their artillery busy. Unfortunately, the 430 misses. Put a shot on him. Okay, that's all right. There we go. Let's get this guy dead. Should be fine. Nice. And it really looks like we're in good shape. And then the Proto gets to me, and I'm like, oh, good. We'll just kill him here. And I bounce. Rush the shot a little bit. Bounce. And now I'm having trouble with my camera. Stuck in this corner. I know the JPZ's coming. I have to get rid of this guy soon. And I'm thinking, all right, I'll just come out here backwards and I'll just kill him, right? Or I'll go forward or something. I'll do something. I don't know. But you can see there's a JPZ. Now I get worried. And I don't have the depression. And I have now eaten 2 shots. I've given the Proto 2 free shots. I hit the tank. Now he's reloaded again. I'm going to give him a 3rd free shot, if you can believe it. And I get lucky on the snap. And boom. JPC just kills me, and this ends up being a draw. The 430 comes close, but doesn't quite get there. 4,600 damage, and 4 kills, and just really not played well at the end. Kind of a poor start, good middle, bad ending. But bottom tier, it's capable, right? It can get around the battlefield. It can flex like a medium can. The alpha is surprisingly good, or will surprise people. Let's put it that way. It's no surprise to you. You're playing it. You know it's 360. All right, let's wrap this up. All right, that is it for the Udes 14.5 Tier 8 Tech Tree medium tank and the new medium tank line for the Swedes. Overall for this, I liked it. I mentioned earlier that it has a lot of capabilities that very good players are going to be able to leverage. Of course, it doesn't have any armor. Great gun depression, the ability to get around the battle. You're not going to ridge fight in that you're going to bounce stuff off your turret, but you can ridge fight in that you can minimize your exposure and it's a very small target, and you're going to hit people much harder than they expect, at least until people get used to it. The hydraulic system is pretty seamless, works pretty nicely actually. You don't have to press X, all that kind of stuff, so it works out. I don't know if it's, I mean, I guess as a game mechanic it's interesting. Was it required for the tank? I don't know, maybe. It gave it that extra couple degrees, whatever it adds to it, so it does help in that case. But in general, I think it's a good tank. I think it's a fairly balanced tank. I happen to do well in it, but like I said, a good player because of its mobility and its ability with minus 12 degrees of depression, even though it's not kind of straight up minus 12 like it might be with, say, a Pershing, which is minus 10, but you understand what I'm saying, where you have that depression and you're just poking up. You do have to work a little bit with the hydraulics, but that extra couple degrees opens up areas on the map, like I showed you in a couple places there, that you can't use with other tanks, especially with things like the Russian tanks in there. So it gives you some more options as well. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the review of the Udes 14 Alt 5, a Swedish Tier 8 Tech Tree tank, medium tank. If you did and you're not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe. I would appreciate it. Otherwise, for everybody else, we will see you.